Is there any other care, concerns, comments?
So I'm kind of conflicted by it.
I'm sorry, can you introduce yourself?
My name is Keith Oliver. I was referenced as having served on the Providence School Board, but I'm an public education advocate, and that's one of the roles that I serve on. I also work with charter schools because I think that charter schools provide really quality educational options for our kids. If you look at who attends our charter schools, they are 90% kids of color, low-income kids from urban communities. And the same people that have a problem with this charter school are the same people that complain that the Providence schools don't serve our kids well. And so the parents of those kids are looking for options. And so when I look at this project, I said, well, this would be just another part of the portfolio of options that our families can have to send their kids to get a quality public education. Now I'm conflicted because I went to John. I lived in Wayne Village when Mr. Clark was running the Senate. We talk about how far back. So I have an affinity for John Hope. And I know what John Hope means to this community. But we're being reminiscent here. John Hope is not what it is a shell of what it once was. Partly because of the decisions of the board, leadership issues, and those are leadership decisions. But, and that's been said, I don't think John Hope is what it has been, what it was since Tom Whitten left. That's a leadership issue. Tom Whitten was a great leader. He ran this agency like it was intended to be run. However, John Hope has been a dysfunctional shell of itself of what it once was. Okay? And has not served this community in the way that it had been or should have been for 6, 7 years now. So the question is now, how can you use this resource, this asset, to be of some meaningful benefit to the community? Now, we all talk about the community and the families of this community and how charter schools involve their kids. I work with charter schools, and we put on a charter school fair 2 months ago, February, to provide an opportunity for families to learn about all of the charter schools. So Paul Cuffey Charter School, Highland Charter School, Times Square, they have an issue. No. Here's my point. My point is this. The people who showed up to that charter school fair were people that look like this room. And so when we're talking about opportunity and community, who's speaking for those families? Who's speaking for those families? That's my point. Now, I'm conflicted because you're right. This community should have been consulted with. This community should have been given the opportunity to provide some input into this. But what I know about this school is this school looked at multiple sites around the city, and the spaces are limited. I just found out that they was talking about John Hope about 2 weeks ago.
Because it was easy to swoop in and try to take it.
Because it was all that was available, and they didn't do the proper outreach. They didn't consult with this community, and that's why I'm conflicted. Because I support charter schools, but I also know that this community needs to be consulted with and have to be included and have to be transparent with this community. And that I agree with. And I would hope that we would be open-minded to how we can best make this asset of meaningful benefit to the community. Thank you.
I'd like to address some of what he just said. I may not be able to do it the best I can. I'm Sergio. I'm a local resident and just active in various things. I can't speak to all of what he said, and I'm just speaking as me, not as part of the organizers, whatever. I think the charter school idea is a persuasive one and a seductive one for people who have been underserved by the public school system. But that doesn't necessarily mean that charters, therefore, are the solution. one of the things that's important about this particular thing, right? So if you feel conflicted, I think you should listen to that conflict. Because part of this process of Wangari trying to establish itself and become a charter school, whatever, because it chose the charter school route, you feel conflicted because it was undemocratic and they didn't reach out to the people who are actually affected, and run John Hope and who are rooted in John Hope. That is not a fault of Wangari. That is a fault of charter schools in their process themselves. And I would basically say that, by what I mean by that is charter schools are undemocratic in their nature, and they seek to try to privatize, they try to privatize resources, they try to privatize decision making, and basically they work to exclude the people who actually built up the public resources. Although John Hope is not necessarily a public institution, it is a historically black institution for the public. Like the woman was saying earlier, right, their whole process of, let's say, recruiting kids, it's open to kids of the broader city. That's cool, but also that includes kids who live in the east side, kids who live in the west side, the more expensive side, right? And so there's less control that John Hope as an institution has to be able to keep that rooted in where it has been for almost 100 years, right? I get that, John Hope may be in financial shambles, although that's something to be questioned, because is that the public narrative or is that the actual case? And why is that the case? Is it a matter of leadership or is it a matter of structure? John Hope is organized as a nonprofit institution. Nonprofits are in themselves also, like charter schools, fundamentally undemocratic. I would propose, and I would say, that the community needs new institutions to be able to hold institutions like John Hope accountable and actually decision-making be rooted in the neighborhoods and the communities where people are living, where they're working, and where their families have lived and worked for years and generations. So this whole idea that charter schools are going to be the solution for us, and the solution possibly to save John Hope, is a seductive one, and one that has been used in state, over state, over state, over state, and they've taken over public institutions, and not only public institutions, black institutions that people have built through struggle and through years. Charter schools are an active threat to black communities, poor communities, and working class communities because they take things out of the public domain. Now, to address the board that you were ahead of, right? You were part of the Providence Public School District, right? I agree that the public school system is shitty for our kids, right? Just as well as the charter school. That points to a bigger problem of the lack of power that working class parents have over their educational institutions. We have to fight around that, not simply succumb to the seductive, solution of charter schools that will keep on displacing us. So that was to address the comments that have been made about charter schools and all that, because